Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We start where we always do, which is in the garage here with our frame table. You'll notice that it's canted over to the side. Well, that's because I had the cherry picker in here a couple of minutes ago, and we were test fitting the engine. The engine looks a little different. So this is our LED3 mock-up motor. You'll notice that we have our Speed Engineering headers that we welded EGT bungs on in the last episode, and a new Holley Hi Ram. So this is going to be our intake for the project. This is what we're going to use. We have our dry sump oil pan that we made two episodes ago on, and we also have our Frank Weiss 5-stage dry sump mounted up here, all taped off so we don't get any grinding grit in it. But before we go any further, I want to show you some other toys that came in the mail today. So what we have here are two mirror image VS Racing 6762 billet impeller ball bearing water cooled turbos. So I said a lot of stuff there. These are mirror image turbos, so they will make life way better. Plus they'll look sweet on the truck when they're all set up nice and symmetrical. And we ordered ahead and we ordered them with V-band connections on all the exhaust housing here. So this is the setup we are going to be running. I'm super excited to have these nice turbos on here. These suckers should be at least 12 to 1300 horsepower capable on our setup, and we will not crank them up that high. We'll probably tap them out about 1,000 with the transmission. But these are what came in the mail today. I'm super excited. We have a bunch of parts coming in, elbows, waste gates are coming, all sorts of other parts. So we will get these mounted up on that mock-up motor here super soon, probably in the next coming episode. But yeah, I couldn't wait to show you guys. Wanted to show you what we got. We'll keep the dust out of them for now. But let's get back to the actual work. Okay, so to get the frame table set up to get the cab on the truck, we need to be able to get the frame table out in the driveway, the truck out in the driveway, and then swap the stuff over onto the chassis. In order to do that, we're going to mount casters on this frame table. So what I got over here is a pile of parts that we cut out in the plasma cutter. I had some little leg extensions, and we are going to mount these on there with some gusseting and then get that frame table up on wheels so we can wheel it in. So let's get started. I already cut everything out for you guys, started grinding them down, getting them cleaned up. We're just gonna do some TIG work, get it welded up, get them on the frame table, and go from there. So let's get started. Okay guys, so we got the motor mounts welded up in there, and we got 2 of the 4 outriggers for the chassis done. I couldn't help myself, so I went and machined down some spacers in here and got them all set up. So this can articulate, but it supplies a little bit of axial resistance. So I'm gonna get these bolted up onto the engine over here, then we're gonna get the welder back out, finish these guys up, and move on to mounting them onto the chassis table. Okay, so before we get welding, I just wanted to show you, we did get these mounted up. This is the scavenge return tube, and it's just, I mean, like clears by like 2 millimeters. So what we're gonna do when the time comes, these fittings are already gonna go. This is gonna go and come straight out, and we're gonna run hoses back, which this is a nice part, but I gotta make it fit. So This is getting replaced with all straight ANs on this section here. And then back here, this is all stainless, so I can do whatever I want here. So I'll cut this this off right at this weld seam. We're gonna put a kicker 90 on it, point it out this direction, and then put like a big dash, probably 12 AN fitting. That way we can run another right angle this way and kick our hose back. So we have plenty of pump. It shouldn't be worried about, you know, pressure drop or anything like that with the right angles. But I just wanted to show you, when you're doing stuff like this, you got to make it fit. So this is going to get customized here. Lop that off, kick it back this way, do some purge on that so we don't kick any sugar, stainless sugar into the oil system. But this one over here obviously went easily because there's nothing over here. So that's that. But yeah, I just wanted to show you, nothing's ever easy. If you're going to work on a project like this, don't expect just because I show it on camera that it bolts all together, that there's not stuff going on behind the scenes. We need to tweak this, we need to do some other stuff. So that's the real truth about it. But it's looking good. I'm happy with them. Okay, so what we got here is I have some blocks. So there's a little nut on the bottom. So 2 inches here is about a quarter inch from the bottom of this nut. So what I want to do is I'm trying to gain some extra height out of the setup here. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit the wheel on, sit this up here, and then you can see how we're going to weld it. We're going to weld it like that so that it's up 2 inches. So I'm just going to get this thing set up here and marked, and then we'll tack it in place. Okay guys, so we got wheels on all 4 corners, and it's looking pretty good. I'm happy with how everything went. And the wheel, nice and easy. One hand I can grab the thing and move it, and then if I want to lock it down, I have brakes on all 4 corners. So that helps out a lot. So what we're gonna do next, off camera, I'm gonna start working on the trans cross member. We already had an episode on that. We're just gonna change it to the chrome moly. And what we're going to do now is we are going to go over in the truck bay and start tearing the dash out of the truck, all the steering column and all that fun stuff, and get that cab ready to come over here. Okay, so it's D-Day here. I got the cab bolts flipped up the opposite direction, and I took my cherry picker's chain strap and little turnbuckles off, added them to a strap here in the middle, and I'm gonna get the cherry picker in here and lift it up right here. Hopefully I can do that without touching the roof of the cab, because that would be bad, but looks like this is going to work. So next up, push this bad boy out into the driveway, and let's see if we can pick it off and sit it down on some 4x4s. So I am just short of getting this done. This cherry picker needs about 8 more inches here, I'd say.
That's what she said.
Extension in order to lift this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to drill an extra hole in this and get the extension way out there. This cab probably weighs like 400 pounds, so it's not going to be an issue, but yeah, we're going to have to do some light modifications.
It was at this moment that he knew. He up.
Well, that went like shit. So I had it jacked up and it was looking pretty good, and we were gonna clear the cab, and I had my wife switch sides because she wasn't strong enough
to pull the cherry picker out on the driveway. And I was holding the front and I said, "You got it?" And she said, "Yeah, I got it." And then she didn't got it. So the thing flipped forward on me. And right now it's resting on the corner of the bed, which is sort of precarious. So I'm having my dad and my Uncle Shane pop over and we're gonna muscle this thing off and then go from there. So fun deal. All right, so we got it mounted on. My Uncle Shane and Dad and everybody came over, helped me real quick throw it on. The chassis, everything looks like it fits good. We got the cab mounts sort of sitting on there. There's no bushings in it right now, so I need to lift it up and put bushings under it. But overall, everything looks to fit pretty good. So it's in there, barely. I'll tell you what, it's definitely a tight fit in here. And it's gonna be a lot of fun to work on. So we'll probably leave the bedsides off as much as possible and go from there. But it is officially kind of together. Cab mount holes line up, everything looks good. So pretty pleased. Okay, so we got bushing number 1 right out of the freezer. You can tell it's nice and cold. I'm gonna go ahead and just start a little pilot hole, run this all the way down through. Then the rest of them, I'm gonna do all of the bushings like this with a pilot hole. Then I'm gonna refreeze them, and then I'm going to remount them with a hand drill to the appropriate size. You need to basically refreeze it every time because this imparts enough heat that it gets gummy inside, and you got to keep refreezing it. But I'll take a couple iterations and should be fine. So let's see if we can get this to go here. So I got all the pilot holes drilled. Now it goes back in the freezer and then we'll ream it. So I'd like to thank D-Wall Drills for not catching on fire. She's a little hot, so I got 2 done. That's about all you can do on 2 batteries. It looks a little oblong, but it'll fill out once it has the spacer in it. But yeah, everything fits down in here if you smush them in. I'm not gonna push it in too deep, but you can see I can get it started. So I got 2 done. I'm gonna wait till tomorrow to do the other 2 because I need to recharge my battery. Literally, it takes 1 whole battery to burn one of these out, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. So don't want to burn my only handheld drill up like right away, but it seems to be working pretty good. So that's the method. I'm not going to bore you guys with the rest of it. You get the idea. What we're going to do next is we're going to get the plasma cutter up. We're going to make some little plates that weld to the bottom of these, and then these will slide onto here, and there'll be a plate on the bottom. And what that does is that will sandwich, well, you can't see it, I have the truck cab on it, but there's a little hole in there, you remember from the previous episode, and this will fit through the hole, and that will prevent, like, if the truck's ever T-boned, the cab from just like shearing off the bolts and killing me, which would be preferred, at least for me. So yeah, that's what we got. I guess we can, in the next clip, you'll see me fill this with water. Okay, so we got 4 of these guys cut out, and what these do is these are going to be on the bottom of the bushing, like so, and then they are going to be welded like this. So the bushing is going to fit down over top, and then this will act as sort of like a bump stop, or like a hard stop rather, for if this is overly compressed, so you don't have too much stuff moving around. One thing you got to remember is the cage is solid mounted to the chassis, so we only want like 1/8 of an inch of movement on the cab. Before we stop, just something to take some of the vibration and harshness out. We don't want necessarily a true flexible bushing, and that's sort of how this is going to be set up. So what I have is I have 4 of these cut out, but unfortunately what I didn't realize is on the factory cab, the rear cab mount sits 1 inch higher than the front. Somehow I missed it in my dimensions. So we need to put an aluminum puck underneath our rubber bushings to extend the back of the cab up about 1 inch. So I did not know that at the time that I cut these. So, and I used all of my material to cut them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this bar stock up here. This is 1.25" bar stock. I'm going to turn that down on the lathe, bore a hole out through it, and then we're going to go ahead and make it out of this material for the back two that need to be longer. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that now, and then once those are done, we'll get to welding. Okay, so I got that all machined down. It's a 5/8 bore and a 1 inch outside, and it's like, I don't know, 3.5 inches long. So that's all ready to go. What we're gonna do next is I got some aluminum here. This is 2.5 inch diameter aluminum pucks, and we're going to make some 1 inch tall spacers for these bushings for the rear of the cab. And that's what's gonna keep it sort of supported at the correct height. So let's get started on that. We're gonna turn these down. Actually, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bore a hole in them first, through them, and then I'm going to part them. So should do the trick. Okay, so I didn't show the machining of the pucks on camera here, but I got these 1 inch aluminum pucks, and then these are the bottom spacers here. So what will happen is the cab, actually the chassis will be right here, then this bottom bushing will be right here, like that, tucked underneath, and this plate will squeeze it all together. So you have a 1/2 inch basically of tension, on the bottom there, and then up top here we have a 1 inch hard spacer, and then this is a 2.25 inch bushing. Now actually it's 2.5 inch right now, but we're going to compress it down to our stack height, which will be 2.25 inch here. So that will take the cab and smush it down to where it needs to be. And when everything is tight, there will be about 3/16 of an inch clearance between this collar in here and the top of the bushing. And that's what's gonna give us our dampening on the cab. But if we hit real hard bump, it'll bottom out in here, and that will keep things from moving around too much in the cab, because this is going to allow the cab to float very slightly up and down, you know, that 3/16 of an inch. But our cage is going to be rigid mounted to the chassis. So we need to make sure that we don't allow too much movement. We want to try to take a little bit of the vibration out, but we don't want to allow movement. So that's why this is set up the way it is. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to go buy some bolts at the hardware store. And then we're going to try to jack up each corner of the cab one by one, slide these pucks underneath there, and get it into its final resting place. Guys, I am very happy to say that we are mounted and the cab is sitting where it's supposed to be. Everything is shored up. I'm very happy. So you can see the bolts popping through just the right length. And we got our spacers here. Everything is fitted just the way I want it. The cab is mounted finally. So this is a big step for me, because everything up until this point, this was a chassis and that was the truck. Now this monstrosity here is going to be the truck. So I'm very happy with how this looks. One thing I did not have in my cab models was the cab. and we're gonna have great room underneath here. Gonna be able to fit that trans, hopefully without too much cutting, and but I'm super pleased. So in the next episode, I need to get the cab cleaned up. Obviously, there's still a bunch of scuzzy stuff all over it. Some rust and flaky stuff I need to brush off. But in the next episode, what we're going to do is we are going to get this motor. We're going to start working on some of the hot side components for this and mount the turbos up on the front of the motor. And then hopefully, I'm going to pull the intake back off, lift this thing up and into the front of the truck, probably outside so we can actually do it, and set this down and find out where these motor mounts need to be on the chassis, where they need to mount up. I'm going to see where it places itself without cutting the firewall, and see if that's satisfactory for us. If it's not, we might get into some firewall and body work. But for now, that's the episode. We got a truck in here, which is pretty sweet. So, till next time, guys.